If you love rock and roll, heavy metal, and punk music like I do, then you've come to the right place. In this video, I will be discussing the rise and fall of the rock shows that my home park, Kings Island, has had for a while. Not Rock and Roll Never Forgets, but a different show that focuses on actual rock music, and why I don't see the outdated standards of its era continuing its course. So without further ado, let's get right onto it. Now, of course, I do enjoy rock music of any kind, and theme parks have had shows that feature all kinds of rock music, and I have no problem with that. I'm sure the Kings Island has had some of it before, other than pop music, country music, which is what I love also, oldies music, and the like. But when it comes to the development of the shows, it's a little complicated. So I have a bunch to explain regarding each show's history, as well as development, description, the changes it went through, and the reputation that each of them created. Not by the music, performers, live band, dancers, background, or in the scenery, just the shows themselves. So the rock shows started coming in one of the venues that you go in and eat at while watching the show, which is none other than the Fest House. Obviously a great venue to expand the rock review shows to, but the KI Theater had some of them before, even during the Paramount days. The International Showplace had some of them before, just not strictly rock music. Same thing with the bandstand. And I like to briefly dive into the history of the Fest House. Now, for those of you that don't know what the Fest House is, it is basically a venue that is basically a food place but also mixed with a theater. And it is basically a German-themed venue. When it first opened, it was part of a Christmas event called Winterfest, which was new at the time as it opened in late 1982. And it eventually became a permanent venue starting in 1983 and housed many shows, including German-related shows, holiday shows, ice shows, shows with live music, a game show called Game On, other shows like Graveyard Shift, and even Cheers the Musical. The stage was originally like it is today, but slowly lost its charm during Paramount's ownership, like how they shortened the stage a little bit. The stage would eventually be covered by the screens for Paramount in the 90s, but that didn't last long, thankfully, although the venue would discontinue the shows after the 2002 season, most likely due to budget cuts and maybe some development changes. Although the stage would become a wall, and there would be no stage in the venue for the next 5 years. And that was not what anybody wanted to see, and personally, I don't blame them. As for the food places, they originally served German food during its heyday. However, as the years passed, the park felt like that the food that they were offering the guests wasn't even working, which the way the food was in the venue back then was where you would try something new. But it seems like to them, no one really gave a shit, so they decided to phase out German food in favor of traditional theme park food. They probably did that devastating change most likely during the Paramount era. And to be honest, I think that was a very stupid decision that the park had made for a venue that has the theme that would perfectly fit in not only the venue but also the area itself, which is Oktoberfest. From there, that's when they started selling traditional food like La Rosa's Pizza and breadsticks and salads, as well as burgers, chicken tenders, and fries. On the contrary, the venue once housed a haunted maze called Circus of Horrors 3D that operated from 2001 to 2006, located on the right side of the venue. I guess that most of the time during the final days of the venue offering shows, they probably didn't do any shows in the venue during Fearfest because of the other attraction that was in there. It would eventually relocate to the Children's Indoor Theater that was being used for storage after closing in 2002, as it became Carnival in 2007, and was basically the same maze that lasted for the next decade, and continued on before being retired in 2017, and has been gutted back into the Children's Indoor Theater it once was, under a different name. And fun fact, I actually worked in that maze as a scare actor during its final years. The space that was once occupied by the maze was eventually gutted out and replaced by a new food venue called Panda Express that opened in 2007, which was one of the only few Panda Express restaurants in the greater Cincinnati area at the time. And as of now, both La Rosa's and Panda Express in the Fest House are still operating to this day and have recently gotten refurbished. And they even had a bar in the Fest House for a while, and now they just literally brought them back and just literally reimagined them. Surprisingly, in 2008, not long after Cedar Fair bought out the Paramount parks, including KI, the park decided to reinstall the stage and put in shows like it once did. Most of the modern shows have been really good over the years, despite most of them not being as popular as some other shows at the KI Theater and Showplace would be. And for more than 15 years, they've had a variety of shows and events, including the County Line Girls Night Out, Down Home Country, British Invasion, the 70s On Demand, Dinker's Toy Factory, Hi-Fi Honey, River City, and one of my all-time favorite shows, Ghouls Gone Wild. And I'll briefly talk a little bit more about it later. However, there was a time when Kings Island decided to modernize the way they do their shows in a whole new way. In November 2014, Kings Island had confirmed the 2015 entertainment lineup and announced a few brand new shows that would be making their way to the park, and one of which was included, as the new rock show went by the name Let It Rock. It wasn't fully revealed until the spring of 2015 when the show gave away its description, appearance of its logo, and what the stage looked like. It likely had its soft opening on April 17th, but officially opened on April 18th, 2015. And let me tell you this, when that show first opened, I thought it was very interesting, very immersive, and it was a lot of fun to watch, as they did covers of classic rock songs from artists and bands like Journey, Foreigner, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, Lynyrd Skynyrd, Guns N' Roses, and several others. While most of it was kind of family friendly, since it is obviously weird how the covers of the songs into this show had sounds of trumpets in them and not closely adult friendly, it still had its charm during its full-on 2-year run. And I assume that most of the songs are basically instrumentals from one movie, Rock of Ages. Speaking of a 2-year run, the show actually had a 2-year run, but I believe it was quietly planned out as that. I'm not sure why they kept it quiet, but I assume it was just to avoid spoiling the surprise of seasonal entertainment lineups for future seasons. Unfortunately, the only time I saw Let It Rock was on its opening day, and I remember it being so good. It was a hell lot of fun, and what was really cool is that one of the performers gave me a high five and a fist bump. I'll tell you what, that made my day so much as a 14-and-a-half-year-old entering high school. I was hoping to see it again, but I never got to because of other things that were going on. But it was still fun, and I was also amazed by how they put the corrupted galvanized steel within the stage, which they still have it today, as they barely took it out. And I wish they did, honestly, because it is kind of weird that the park still hasn't removed the steel when it shouldn't be that bad to do so. Despite that, the show continued to perform in the Fest House at KI, becoming a guest favorite for families until its final performance on August 14, 2016, as it wrapped up its 2-year run permanently. However, Let It Rock wasn't the only show in this era, as its successor came into place, and that Kings Island wanted to try something new in the venue, which they did. And that being said, it was none other than the show that the younger generation knows today, and as a Halloween version of its predecessor, Let It Rock, known as Monster Rock, not to be confused with Monsters of Rock. So why was Monster Rock created in the first place? Well, it's because a lot of rock music represents the sinister, and Halloween Haunt has a lot of sinister-related aspects, elements, attractions, and atmosphere. And I mean, why not? That's what they did after they took out Ghost Gone Wild for its brief revival a year prior. It was confirmed and announced by KI in August 2015, and no one knew that the show would include a live band until the time that all the details were revealed, including the description and appearance of the logo. Monster Rock opened on September 25th, 2015, and instantly became a guest favorite because of the vibes that they get from the live band, as well as the scenery, the unique costumes, and the music choices for covers of several Sinister songs. When it first opened, the background of the show was very rad. It had a 9-piece live band, and the band that was involved in the show was a local Cincinnati band, River City. There were also 5 performers that performed in the show, and all performers and band members were wearing black and Sinister-related clothing, so they weren't traditional Halloween costumes, which I thought it was very rad and I loved it. It had a lot of songs from Let It Rock, but it also had other songs like Don't Fear the Reaper, Spiders and Snakes, Superstition, The Midnight Hour, and a few others that were exclusively in the show. For 2016 and 2017, they changed many other songs from the previous year to other Sinister songs, which those included Ballroom Blitz, Maneater, Animal, Werewolves of London, Sunglasses at Night, Shadows of the Night, Can't Hold Us, and many others. Although the background changed a little bit, including the costumes that received minor changes. I got to see its show during its heyday, which by that I mean its glory days, like back when the show was at its absolute best at its standards, and I saw it like 5 times in person. 3 in 2015, once in 2016 during Haunt, and once in 2017 during the day. The reason I saw it 5 times was because of how much I loved that show at the time, and because of how great it was, including the live music. It wasn't very overrated, but I knew something was a bit off when they decided to keep it in 2017 and beyond. But I'm not going to complain about it from its early days. And I was going to see it for a 6th time in one of the seasons, but I somehow decided not to. Hell, I even liked how they had Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare as the opening and closing music before and after the show began, which gave me the chills in a very good way. And fun fact, it was used for the show's first 3 years of existence. But in 2018, however, that was when the entertainment department decided to screw it up. and they started reusing the sets from other shows other than Let It Rock to make them fit the theming of the show, which I don't find that original. Sure, they've always done that, but that started to become more recognizable a year prior, and they relied so much on the screen itself, with each backdrop not mostly covering the screen, and started using traditional Halloween costumes for performers, making most of them look like a bunch of Ghouls Gone Wild wannabe characters. Now, I know that the traditional Halloween characters are basically public domain, but in standards of another show that the park had, it's kind of weird and unusual for a show that was once targeted to teens and adults, even though people didn't care for it before then. And to make matters worse, they never changed the description of the show since they changed other songs that aren't performed by the performers that the show would no longer have. And since they don't have any songs by Journey, Foreigner, Bon Jovi, or Aerosmith like they used to, they would now perform covers of other songs that are not as sinister, but rather more pop Halloween music, like Disturbia, Somebody's Watching Me, and several others. Not to mention, they even changed the opening song from We Will Rock You and the Jukebox Hero / I Love Rock and Roll mashup to another song that went, We Are the Monster Again, woo! Even their opening and closing music changed to Alice Cooper's Feed My Frankenstein. And with the show relying so much on trumpets for that rock show, which don't get me wrong, I like trumpets, but based on my perspective, they don't always fit in every single show, unless if it's absolutely necessary. While the show's backdrop would only change each year, as well as switching to other traditional Halloween costumes from time to time, and River City no longer performing in the show as a whole, but just random musicians participating in it, nothing else in the show had changed, which clearly makes it outdated, especially in today's standards based on what we expect in the entertainment industry for shows that come and go, and since Let It Rock is long gone. The only other change that they had in the show was that when the show returned after a hiatus from the COVID year, along with the rest of Haunt, they had to temporarily replace the live band with background dancers that performed along with the singers. The reasoning was due to the members of the live band not being vaccinated against COVID at the time, and this was back in like 2021. So it was complicated for indoor theater venues to return to full capacity and normalcy. The dancers only appeared in the show for one season, and I don't think we'll ever see any background dancers coming back to the fest house in any shape or form anytime soon. And besides, they're kind of distracting sometimes anyway, unless it's absolutely necessary. From then, that was when I completely lost my interest, respect, and trust in Monster Rock. It is not the same as it used to be, and it quickly became overrated because of how much people keep constantly praising it like it's God, which isn't a bad thing. But if you look at the videos and photos of the show on social media, you'll see what I mean by that. And plus, how do some people find the show great when the show itself is overrated, as it is already outdated in its ongoing era? Or at least maybe not an ongoing era anymore, but who cares? It was already cheap looking, and I just can't even stand it. Now again, don't get me wrong here. I do like the songs, live music, performers, singing, dancing, lighting, and the beats that they put in the show. But like, if it's to the point where they decided to keep the show for way too long as Let It Rock is no longer around, then what's the whole point of it? To me, because of how unnecessarily long it exists in person, and because of how it has no storyline whatsoever, even though that not all shows have storylines or storytelling, and that's fine. But when it comes to theatrical shows, if it's a performing arts type of show, it does not make it seem as great as other sinister shows were from the years past. Hell, Hot Blooded was great because of everything it had, including a storyline, the songs that the performers sang, the music, the multi-sensory effects that fit everything in it, and that also lasted for 8 years. While Monster Rock had been performing for 8 years, well guess what? So did Peanuts Party in the Park. That lasted for this long, and I have a feeling that Monster Rock is going to meet the exact same fate. And if it is true, then I will be relieved in excitement. And like I said before, I don't hate Monster Rock, it's just that it's overrated and it has overcome its day. So I think it is time for it to end its course after all those years. I remember at one point when I said this to the KI Haunt community on Facebook that I was hoping for the show to permanently close and get replaced by a different show because of how overrated it was. And then the admin, his name's Paul, told me that it's a quote-unquote more family-friendly show and that it would stay longer. Nearly a lot of people had predicted that, particularly the budget cuts, and it turns out that they were right. And looking at that response now, I felt very empty, as if most people do not care about the history of anything major or minor at any theme park, even if it's local. I mean, I get it, because not everybody remembers everything, even from the past that people don't often look back and remember. I guess they also wanted to forget its reputation, which is pretty screwed up. Even with the reasoning of the show staying longer, but not specifically how long, I thought that the reasoning he gave me in the response was total bullshit, and I was not pleased about it. Thankfully, however, not a lot of people believe it will be staying longer than last year as of recently. So I'm guessing that this could be a good sign for the future of new material for indoor shows, like entirely new for the first time in a decade. Plus, the new show Country Crossroads does not have the exact same set as Monster Rock has had in its later years. So let's keep dreaming and hope this is true. As long as the budget cuts don't hit the entertainment department real hard this coming fall, winter, or beyond, as far as we know that they already are this summer. And I hope that one of the shows, Goes Gone Wild, would make another comeback, as not only a revival but also a reimagined show where it wouldn't seem as ugly as it did in its brief return in 2014, and as good as it was during its original run, with more dialogue and effects, not just the songs, music, characters, and scenery. So that's it, guys. That is all I have to talk about regarding the rise and fall of the Kings Island rock shows. I hope you guys understand everything that I had to throw out. I'm sorry this is like a kind of rant, but I basically wanted to get it off my chest. But still, I hope you guys understand this whole rise and fall situation and conspiracy theory. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Until then, this is me, Byron, the multiple interests man, signing off. Peace out and keep on rocking.